This episode of Film Ride is brought to you by Domain.com.
Today on Film Ride, we're talking storyboards, the storyboarding process. Welcome to Film Ride, the show that takes the mystery out of the effects and techniques, going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. Today, again, another pre-production blog. Today we are doing storyboarding, which is one of my favorite parts because you are making the movie before you make the movie. I absolutely love it. We tried to capture the whole process of making those boards to show you guys, so let's not delay any longer, shall we? Jump right into it. So I'm working on storyboards now. We've been working on it for a while. First, of course, comes the shot list and things like that. And once I have a clear vision of what I want the thing to look like, it's time for me to board. Now, storyboarding isn't a completely mandatory thing for you to do. There are some directors who don't. Most do storyboard. Some don't do it before time, like Ridley Scott will board what he wants to shoot that day, the day before, or on the way in to shoot the actual film. But some will board way in advance and get really detailed with it. I'm the type of person who likes to board every single shot in the film. The reason I like to do this is because I set such a clear plan before time. I make my entire film before we ever step on set, and by doing that, it is really easy for me to throw everything out the window when I want to, because there is a clear plan in place. I don't have to be stressed out or constantly thinking how I'm going to do the next thing. I have something to fall back on and this structure to work off of, so I can really get creative and do whatever I want after that. So when I board before, anytime I would do storyboarding before, I was always doing it by myself. I didn't really have a budget or the network to bring somebody in to help me do storyboarding. And you can do that. If you don't have an artist or you can't draw, you can still do your boards. There's stuff like taking pictures and making your storyboard through pictures. There's an app on iPhone called Cinemec, which we've talked about on the show before, which is awesome. It has everything you need to make a storyboard. Just go around your house with your friends, getting the clear idea of what it is you want your film to look like. It's really, really helpful, especially when you're working with a crew, to be able to just show people, not try to explain, but actually just show this is what I'm talking about. Another great one is FrameForge 3D. That's an awesome program where you can actually find your shots. Once you have your shots set up, it also makes camera plots for you. You can do different frame sizes. You can do different lenses. You can also get all the measurements. If you know where you're shooting, you could get the measurements of the room and build it exactly. You'll know all the heights of your camera. And what I love most about FrameForge 3D is the fact that you can find shots this way. Like, it's a great thing to just move the camera around this virtual world and find the exact shot you want. Zooming in, zooming out, you can really learn different focal lengths and what they'll make that scene feel like. So there's a lot to that program that's really beneficial. But with this one, I really wanted to work with a storyboard artist because I was convinced by my friend Dan that was the way to go. When you're directing, especially with your first big project, working with a storyboard artist, he says, is the first time that you direct your film. And I gotta say, he's 100% right. Having to give my vision to another person verbally for them to put it down visually has really helped me. I mean, I've had to justify shots and the way a scene played out that made me completely rethink the scene because I was wrong. Once I was seeing it there and I was explaining why one moment happened to the next, I found out that this was something I was going to change on set. And given that we only have a certain amount of time to shoot, we're having to crunch our days because of the budget. We got to keep the budget down. We're working with so many people. To find that issue on set with something like this would really be difficult for the production. I mean, something like Tell or Losses, that's fine. We're there with a bunch of friends. It's not that big of a deal. But something like this, I really need to make sure all my stuff is locked down. And when I get on there, I know exactly what I want. That way I have the freedom to move around a little bit if I want to. So having Jordan, who is the storyboard artist I used, draw up the boards and even give me ideas for things was really, really helpful.
We're on day 3 now. Day 1, I talked a lot. There was a lot of explaining, but now on day 3 of boarding, which is, I guess, 18 hours into boarding, there's kind of like an unsaid language happening where she totally gets my style, and now I just kind of get the idea of what the board is, and then I just watch her rip what's in my head directly out and draw it into a frame.
But again, these boards don't need to be super detailed. I mean, Jordan isn't even spending a ton of time to make this look like a comic book. It's just what you need to get the detail across of what you're trying to do. I mean, if all you're doing is drawing stick figures and it still gives the idea of perspective and composition, well, then you have yourself a storyboard. And I think it's really important, especially when you're shooting a film, because you're shooting completely out of order, you're all over the place. This helps you retain your original intention of what you wanted for that scene, what you wanted the camera to do. Because in pre-production, you have all the time in the world to really dive into your script and figure out what you want your audience to be filming. When you're on set, it gets really stressful and it's really easy to forget where you're at under that sort of stress. But with a storyboard, you can easily just go, look at the image, and it all comes right back to what you originally wanted for that scene. So it's really a kind of a safety net to ensure that what you originally wanted is still gonna find its way to the film. Another thing that I thought was interesting that I hadn't thought of before was the actual location. We started boarding before I found my locations, and once I found them, we actually redid a few boards because I had to redo my shot list based on the location. Some things wouldn't work. Then I was able to show my artist some images of our location, and she started tailoring her images to what the location actually looked like, which was really gonna help us once we're there. We know exactly where I wanted the camera originally thanks to the storyboards, and it helped us see what we were able to actually do with the camera and not, since we know what sort of obstructions are actually in the scene. Now, if you can't see the location first, it's really not that big of an issue. The storyboard is still gonna help you to know what sort of thing you wanted, so you can easily rearrange your shot based on the location you have, still getting all those ideas and punctuations that you had in the storyboard. So here's how it worked. First of all, how did I find a storyboard artist? Well, I just searched the internet. I Googled storyboard artist and then around my location, and I spent days looking for people that I think would be down to do it that wouldn't cost a ridiculous amount of money. What you can do is look for people in art school. If someone's actually still in college, they're gonna be down to do your project just to have a credit, just to get experience. They'll probably do it for free. Of course, it's nice to give them any amount of money you possibly can, but most of these people in these art schools will probably just hook you up for free, and they're gonna be very, very talented people. Now, when I met up with Jordan, of course, we start going through the boards one by one, starting from our first shot, and I actually went through the script in chronological order, so jumping from scenes back and forth so I could kind of see my movie layout in front of me. I would describe the shot and draw very, very poorly on a notebook to try to express what I'm trying to think of, which one thing that helped us a lot was doing Google Hangouts. Since I'm in pre-production, I couldn't meet that much, so we would do Google Hangouts and you could do a screen share, and I was able to show her my screen with FrameForge on it and then position the camera to kind of give her a general idea of what I wanted to do, and she could go off that. So FrameForge really helped me out there too. So the first thing she does is thumbnailing, which is just these really basic, really sloppy images to where only her and I can really tell what that is. Then she's going to take that back and then she fixes it up to the second round of roughs. This is a lot more intelligible. You can tell what you're looking at. It gives me a clearer idea of where the camera is, perspective and angle. And then once I approve all those or have corrections, move up, move down, left, right, I'm very picky about it because I want everybody to know exactly what I wanted. She goes back and she makes the final boards, including shading and everything else that really captures the tone for the rest of the crew to see, which is why I've been really loving using an actual artist, because not only is the angle that I want in there, but the actual tone is being represented for people to be able to see. There's also a side to storyboarding that's kind of like screenwriting, whereas screenwriting, there's a secret language to it. That formatting kind of shows someone that the person writing knows what they're doing since their formatting is correct. Well, storyboarding does have something similar to that, and that is the way that it shows how a character is moving or the camera is moving in and out.
So the usual way that you show the different camera moves is just drawing arrows with usually the camera move written inside them. But for something like a zoom, you want to show like the zoomed out version. So this larger frame is where it starts, and the smaller frame is where it would end. And then you just draw on the arrows to show the direction of the zoom. So for the reverse zooming out, you do the same thing. You show where it starts, and then you show where it ends. These chunkier arrows are usually what you use for camera moves. There's like, as you can see, there's kind of an infinite amount of shapes that you can have, but for character moves, what you want to do is use these like skinnier arrows, just so you have a difference between the two and you can tell what the arrow is talking about. So if this guy is going to move this way, you want to draw a little arrow that's going that way.
Domain.com is the place to go if you want to get yourself a website like I did. If you're an innovator, a filmmaker, a business owner of any kind, you're going to want to get yourself a .net. I got one with Outsiders. I got outsidersthefilm.com. I got outsidersfilm.net. That way I protect my name and people can't go get the .net and try to point people to their... if somebody has a .com and you wanted that name and you get yourself a .net, but it doesn't conflict in any way, like one's a flower shop and the other one's like a basketball team, does that work? There's nothing wrong with that. So go to domain.com, get their .net. It's only $8.99 a year. It's affordable, and I can make it more so. Want to know how? You should already know this. Use the coupon code FILMRIGHT at checkout. Get yourself 15% off your website, which I hope is for a film. And if it is, send it to me. I love watching you guys' film. Once again, if you're thinking domain names, come on, people. You should be thinking domain.com.
Logo.
So that's storyboarding 101, really. The entry level into storyboarding, but the basics that you need. I mean, really what a storyboard is going to do is keep you on track, like I said. When you're on production and it's a little bigger, more than you've ever handled before, and crap hits the fan, you start getting crazy stressed out. This is going to help you keep in mind your original intention of what you wanted and get everybody else on the same page with you. Now, if you're looking for a storyboard artist, you could always use the storyboard artist I used. She could be found right here. She's incredibly talented, and she's not going to rip you off, which is nice. She also has a Twitter right here that you could follow, and you should follow because she is quite talented. But that's it for today. I hope that was helpful to you guys. And of course, again, if you don't want to draw the thing, you can use FrameForge, you can use Cinemech, you can just use pictures if you want. However you want to do it, just the idea is to put your vision on paper for you to keep in mind and for everyone else to see. But now, back to the rest of this pre-pro, and I'll see you guys next week.